Welcome to another edition of our treatment of the International Sunday School lesson. Today's lesson is entitled Walk in Love, and it's taken from 2 Thessalonians 3, 1 through 5, and then we jump to 2 John verses 4 through 11. And today's lesson is for January the 6th, 2019, winter quarter, lesson number 4. Okay, little background information. Now, these two epistles are written by two apostles, the Apostle Paul and the Apostle John. And even though they were both ministers of the gospel, both apostles, they had a different style in the way that they went about things. Paul seemed to be just a little bit more laid back at times, maybe, than John. John was a lot more aggressive sometimes when he dealt with people. But also, too, John mellowed out a lot as he aged. And he was the only apostle to die a natural death. All the other apostles were martyred. And Paul, of course, died a much younger man than the apostle John did. And as I have mentioned before in our Sunday school lessons, it is... you can build a very strong case that the Apostle John was the cousin of Jesus, the natural cousin of Jesus. And that's one of the reasons why when the Lord gave the care of his mother over to someone, that it was the Apostle John that he gave Mary, the care of Mary, over to, was to the Apostle John. It's also true that John lived longer than all the other apostles, so that may have also had something to do with it. But nonetheless, we see that John is being referred to as the apostle whom Jesus loved. And that's how he referred to himself in the Gospel of John. And of course, John wrote the Gospel of John, and he wrote the 3 epistles, 1 John, 2 John, and 3 John, and he also is the author of Revelation. And of course, Paul wrote all the great epistles that we know about. He may potentially have written the book of Hebrews. There's a little bit of debate about that. You conjecture that he wrote the book of Hebrews. You can build a case for it or against it, depending on how you approach it. But anyway, these two men wrote a significant portion of the Bible, and today's lesson has got some very important points to it that we want to just dive right into. Okay? 2 Thessalonians 3, 1 through 2. Finally, brothers, pray for us, that the word of the Lord may speed ahead and be honored, as happened among you, and that we may be delivered from wicked and evil men, for not all have faith. So we see here how Paul and the brothers that are with him are asking the Thessalonians to pray for their ministry. And let me encourage everyone to partner with particular ministries and to pray steadfastly and consistently for those ministries. Because every ministry out there that's doing the work of God is fighting the onslaught of Satan in these perilous times. And Pray for the success of these ministries. Pray for the results to be seen for these ministries. And pray for the safety of the ministers. Pray for their well-being, for their spiritual safety, for their emotional support of the people working in these ministries. Because I will tell you without a shadow of a doubt, from personal experience, that if you're out there working for the Lord, Satan is going to come against you every way he possibly can. He will come at you internally through tempting you with things you have weaknesses for. He will come at you externally by inspiring people to come against you and try to trip up your ministry. He will try to make you ineffective by confusing you and get you on things that you shouldn't be harping on. He will try to make you feel more about yourself than you should by filling you up with pride. He will try to distract you from studying the Word of God to explain the Bible correctly. And he just comes at you every way he possibly can, because he knows that it's the power of the Word, the sword of the Spirit, that does so much good in the work of the Lord. And so that's why he comes at all these ministries. And bind together, support these ministries with your prayers. And I'm telling you, for me personally, I covet your prayers with the things that I'm going up against and the way the devil tries to attack my ministry. I covet your prayers. Now, I don't accept any kind of donations or anything like that. And please don't ever try to send me any kind of money or anything like that. The ministry's self-sufficient. But the thing that it's not prayer sufficient. I covet your prayers. I ask you to pray for this ministry. Pray for its success. Pray for its to reach the people that it's supposed to reach, to be doing the exact things it's supposed to be doing. Pray for me that I don't get sidetracked into some kind of ridiculous stuff and don't do the things I should be doing. Pray that I keep a focus on what the mission that the Lord has sent me to do. And I covet your prayers. And pray for other ministries. Because they are, it's not just the devil, but there are evil men and forces that are giving themselves over to Satan, that are attacking ministries all through the world. They may be people in power, in political power. They may be people inside the church. There is nothing will hurt a pastor more than anything to get a bunch of tale-bearing, gossiping, lying people inside their church that will sit there and make up things and get their feelings hurt and say all kinds of ridiculous stuff and try to stir up a big mess inside the church. There's nothing that will hurt the life of a church more than anything than that kind of stuff. I have seen churches that are flourishing. They're in the midst of a revival, and somebody will get their feelings hurt and start in all this stuff, and before you know it, the church is just, there's hardly nobody there. They've all been run off. They've all got their feelings hurt. There've been lies told and stuff like that. So we need to really be praying for all these ministries. And let me tell you something. If you're going around gossiping all over through your church and on everybody you could possibly gossip about, you're classified with these wicked and evil men. That's the group that you're associated with, that you're identifying with. Because gossiping and tale-bearing and bearing false witness, let me tell you something. You're not on the right side when you do that. Okay? Now, continuing on. 2 Thessalonians 3 through 5. But the Lord is faithful. He will establish you and guard you against the evil one. And we have confidence in the Lord about you, that you are doing and will do the things that we command. May the Lord direct your hearts to the love of God and to the steadfastness of Christ. And there is like the line from that song that I love so much, The Long Black Train. There's victory. There's victory in the Lord, I say. And that's what Paul is telling the Thessalonians. There is a victory in the Lord. That I have confidence that the Lord's going to strengthen you and make you stronger and give you wisdom and give you the persistence that you need to do the right thing. And when we pray for people, we need to have that kind of faith that the Lord's going to strengthen them. And also, too, let's point out something else. The confidence that Paul was having was not into them themselves, but in the Lord. Sometimes we put our confidence in people and we build them up to the point to where and take the Lord completely out of it. We need to be giving glory to the Lord when we are voicing confidence in people. And give the glory to the Lord. When people have accomplishments, give the glory to the Lord. And also too, notice too that Paul and the good brothers that were with him, how that he's talking to the Thessalonians, how that they were being obedient to what they were being instructed to do, and we need to be obedient and loyal to the people who have who are overseeing us. Everybody needs to be answerable to somebody, and that's just all they are to it. And one of the things that you get that we can get problems with is when people get so wound up in themselves that they think that they are freestanding and they don't have to answer to anybody. And once you do that, you can find yourself into trouble. And we all need to be answerable to somebody. And I'm not talking about the governance of the church so much, because there's a lot of different ways that can be set up. There are what's called the Episcopal governance, where you have church members and you have like a board over that, and then you have a pastor, then you have an district overseer or a bishop or whatever they're called over that, and then you have the general overseer or the archbishop over that. And that's one way that you got everybody's answerable to somebody. And that's a good, that's a very legitimate, good way to have things set up. You also have another way that you can have it set up, which a lot of my good Baptist friends have theirs set up this way, which is a completely legitimate way, is that you have like a deacon board, and the deacon board acts like a board of governors over the pastor. The pastor's answerable to the deacon board, and the deacon board's answerable to the congregation, and everybody's answerable to somebody. You don't have, what is not okay is if you have like a situation where somebody owns the church lock, stock, and barrel, and you have one person making absolutely all the decisions, and they're not answerable to anybody except whatever they think is the right thing to do. Now that is just not okay. That is an accident waiting to happen when that happens. Anyway, neither here nor there. Well, it is neither here nor there. It's an important point I'm making, but everybody does need to be answerable to somebody. And that's what Paul's talking about here. And if you notice, even with Paul giving orders and giving commands to the people at Thessalonians, if you'll notice, if you look back in the book of Acts, how that Paul reported back to the church at Jerusalem about his actions and actually gave an account of what they had been up to and what they had been doing, which shows you that they had accountability to somebody other than themselves. Okay, continuing on. Now we're going to jump on up to the second book of John. Okay? 2 John, verse 4. I rejoice greatly to find some of your children walking in the truth, just as we were commanded by the Father. Now, he is talking, it's either to someone with a large family that he was very familiar with, and he had ministered to them, or he's talking to a particular church, and he's using children and metaphorically as the members of that church. Now, when I read these verses, I tend to think of this as metaphorically of him talking to the members of this particular church, and the lady is that particular church that he's talking to. But anyhow, we see here how that the Apostle John is rejoicing in their good works and the things that they are doing. And we need to really do that kind of thing. When we see people out there doing the right thing, we should not have an ounce of jealousy in us. We should be rejoicing in the good works that they're doing. And that's what John's doing here. Okay? Now, 2 John 1:5 through 6. And now I ask you, dear lady, not as though I were writing you a new commandment, but the one we have had from the beginning, that we love one another. And this love, that we walk according to his commandment. And this is love, that we walk according to his commandments. This is the commandment just as you have heard from the beginning, so that you should walk in it. So, here we have John emphasizing the number one thing about Christianity is that we display love. And I want you to notice, I want us all to notice, I want me to notice, I want you to notice that this love is not just words. It's not just talk. This love has all tied up into action. It's not love if there's no action to it. Love is an action verb. It's manifested by how you behave, by what you do. It is more what you do than what you say. My dad that raised me, he hardly never, ever told anybody he loved them. But that man, every day he was alive, demonstrated his love by his actions, by what he did, by getting up and going to work to provide for his family, by making sure that things were safe, by making sure that things were correct, by looking out for people. It was actions The man never had to tell you he loved you. He showed you by what he did. And as Christians, that is exactly how we need to be. We need to show our love by what we do, by the way we treat people, by the way that we go check on them, by the way that we help them clean their house, by the way that we bring them a meal, by the way that we pay a bill, by the way that we do different things. Love has to be tied to actions. If it is only words, and words don't mean anything. Without any actions, words do not mean anything. We show our love by what we do, not by what we say. Okay? Now, 2 John 7 and 8. For many deceivers have gone out into the world, those who do not confess the coming of Jesus Christ in the flesh. Such a one is the deceiver and the Antichrist. Watch yourselves, so that you may not lose what we have worked for, but many may win a full reward. Now, the Apostle John is talking about a particular specific heresy here, where they were some people who were saying, well, Jesus was just an illusion. He didn't really come in the flesh. He didn't really suffer. He wasn't real. He was just a spirit being. And John is saying that is complete, total a lie. Jesus came in the flesh and suffered and died on that cross, and when they stuck those nails in him, it hurt. When it was hot, he sweated. When he had no food, he felt the pains of hunger. When he was thirsty, when he didn't have any water or anything to drink, he was thirsty. He really felt that. That was real. Okay? And we have heresies that crop up all the time. And we have to be careful not to get suckered into anything like that. Okay, verses 9 through 11. Everyone who goes on ahead and does not abide in the teaching of Christ does not have God. Whoever abides in the teaching has both the Father and the Son. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not receive him into your house and give him any greeting. For whoever greets him takes part in his wicked works. Now, we need to be real careful and listen carefully to this. Just like we were talking about earlier about supporting ministries and praying for people in the ministries. If somebody's out there teaching a lie and it is a heresy, you don't give them no money, you don't give them no support. Because if you do, you are partaking of their evil works. And you do not want to do that. Don't bid them Godspeed. Don't send them a donation. Don't encourage people to go to their church. If you know that they are teaching a lie. Now, we've all got differences of opinion about different things about the Bible. And that's one thing. But now there's some things you can't get wrong. I mean, things like salvation by grace and Jesus' deity and the crucifixion, the virgin birth, the resurrection, the second coming of Jesus. Those are the kind of things that you cannot get wrong and still be a Christian. Okay? So if you see somebody doing that kind of stuff, do not give aid to that person because you're partaking of their evil deeds. Okay, a couple of concluding thoughts that we want to make. That is that let me reiterate the fact that love is an action. It's not just words. And let me encourage you to show that love by action. A second thing is support ministries that are out there doing a good work, and encourage them and pray for their success. And the other thing is that do not aid the people who are teaching and preaching lies. And friends, good Lord willing, I'll be back with you next weekend.